Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Zhou used every heavenly writing's power to preserve Kong's extraordinary 8 meridians. However, they were merely preserved. He could not help her undergo body tempering or cultivate. Having used his power over and over again, he knew this very well. However, Kong had easily and naturally entered the mystic enlightening realm. Zhou stroked his beard as he thought about this. He really could not make sense of it. What happened? Mingxian remained kneeling on the ground, too afraid to speak. Little Yuan, on the other hand, stopped crying. She was now looking at Kong. Zhou could not seem to find the answer to his question despite his 1,000 years of experience and knowledge. He stood up and mumbled, "Incredible." Mingxian looked up at his master in confusion as he asked, "Master, how's she doing?" He furtively looked at Kong who was lying on the bed. He could sense that Kong was still breathing and smoothly at that. She did not seem to be in any danger. When Mingxian saw his master frowning and lost in thought, he stood up of his own accord, walked up to the bed, and placed 2 fingers on Kong's wrist. His eyes widened. He could not believe it and examined her pulse again. Good heavens! The results were the same. He stuttered, "Mystic enlightening?" He leaped backward and said in an alarmed tone, "Master, is she a spy sent by the other sects? Did she intentionally hide her cultivation base and strength?" Without waiting for a response from Zhou, Mingxian shook his head and refuted his own guess. No, it makes no sense to send a mystic enlightening cultivator. Little Yuan was shocked and puzzled. Fourth senior brother, is Kong dead? She's not dead, she's doing fine. She's now in the mystic enlightening realm, Mingxian replied. Mystic enlightening realm? Entering the mystic enlightening realm directly without undergoing body tempering. There was no doubt Kong had entered the mystic enlightening realm, but Zhou could not figure out how for now. This was truly strange. If she were from the modern world, it could be considered as her skipping a grade. In fact, she was even more terrifying than those grade skippers in the modern world. A grade skipper merely learned faster compared to other students. Essentially, they still have a foundation. However, Kong had no foundation whatsoever, but she directly skipped the body tempering process and directly entered the mystic enlightening realm. Even the outstandingly talented little Yuan was not capable of this. Zhou was still lost in his thoughts when the 4 elders appeared in the courtyard. Greetings, Pavilion Master. Zhou stopped thinking. He calmly said, "Come in, all of you." The 4 elders entered the room. They glanced around and could roughly guess what happened. At the same time, they looked at Kong who was lying on the bed. What happened? Zhou asked, puzzled. Allow me. Mingxian raised a hand. He seemed enthusiastic about recounting something so sensational. He stood before the 4 elders, cleared his throat, and said, "Genius. A super genius. A peerless genius. She directly entered the mystic enlightening realm. Don't look at me as if I'm some lunatic." What was he talking about? They could not understand Mingxian's words. Only when Mingxia calmed down and properly recounted what happened did they understand. All of them clicked their tongues in wonder and amazement. There had never been a cultivator who entered the mystic enlightening realm without undergoing body tempering. The 4 elders took turns walking to the bed to examine Kong's extraordinary 8 meridians. Even the knowledgeable 4 elders were baffled by this strange occurrence. They could not understand it. The 4 of them frowned, lost in their own thoughts. Zhou stroked his beard and looked at the 4 elders. Elder Pan, any ideas? Pan Litian's wizened face twitched. He said with a smile, "I'm sure Elder Leng knows. I won't embarrass myself." Lang Luo said in a hushed tone to Hua Wudao, Elder Hua, you answer this. Me? I think it's better to leave this to Senior Zhou. Hua Wudao hastily stepped backward. Zhou Yushu frowned. These three old men are bullying a woman. How could they do this? This shameless lot. However, Zhou Yushu did know something about this. Hence, she said, I don't think that she has never undergone body tempering. When the others heard this, they looked at Zhou Yushu. What makes you say that? Lu Zhou asked as he stroked his beard. Zhou Yushu looked to the side before speaking with the air of a female tutor. You've preserved her meridian vessels with some unconventional method, Pavilion Master. With the addition of the powers from the four of us, it's not impossible for her to complete body tempering in a short amount of time under those conditions. But her bodily functions aren't strong. She's no different from a mortal, Mingxirin said, still perplexed. The Pavilion Master's power and our powers complemented each other. When we activated her Dantian Sea of Qi, our powers cancelled each other out, which led to this outcome. Zhou Yushu cupped her fists at Lu Zhou and said, of course, these are only my speculation. It's no small feat to enter the mystic enlightening realm under such conditions. Pan Litian said, in that case, this young girl might be a rare cultivation genius who only shows up once every 1,000 years. Indeed. Zhou Yushu said. Mingxirin rolled his eyes at them, speechless. After going on for so long, they had reached the same conclusions he did. At this moment, Hua Wudao stepped forward and said with a bow, Pavilion Master. I'm willing to take her on as a disciple. I'll do everything I can to teach her everything I know. Please agree to my request, Pavilion Master. Lang Luo said, you're going to teach a young lady to fight with your tortoiseshell technique? I think this young lady is suitable for the Dao invisibility technique. I guarantee that she'll become the next 8-leaf Dao invisibility elite. Pan Litian said in a disapproving tone, I don't think that there's much difference between the Dao invisibility technique and the tortoiseshell technique. With her talent, she should be learning about energy seals with me. Becoming an 8-leaf cultivator is nothing. I hope that she'll become a 9-leaf cultivator. Zhou Yushu joined the Evil Sky Pavilion late. However, when she saw a young talent such as Conk, she felt an urge to teach her as well. She was a female as well, and she resented the Confucian society's patrilineal inheritance. She felt that it was a waste for her to bring all that she learned to the grave. Before Zhou Yushu could finish her sentence, Lu Zhou raised a hand and calmly, that's enough. The room fell silent. Nothing was for certain yet, and they were already fighting over a potential disciple. When Lu Zhou looked at the elders, none of them dared to speak. I have my arrangements for her. Let's call it a day. The four of them bowed and left the southern pavilion. Outside the southern pavilion, the four of them sighed and shook their heads. What a shame that a genius such as her can't become my disciple. Pan Litian sighed. Let's not think about it anymore. With the Pavilion Master around, we won't get the chance. The others were taken aback. That made sense. How could they have forgotten this? Inside the room, Lu Zhou looked at the unharmed Conk. Indeed, he thought about accepting her as his disciple, but accepting another disciple would not benefit him further. In fact, it would only distract him. According to Ji Tiandao's sequence of recruiting his disciples, the 9 disciples were somehow related to the poem. In that case, if the 10th disciple's name was Conk, did that not mean that everything would deviate from the original plan? Look after her, Lu Zhou ordered. Yes, Master. Lu Zhou decided to focus on unraveling the mysteries behind Conk for now. Why couldn't the Eye of Truth see through her? How did she directly enter the mystic enlightening realm? Where did she come from? Where would she go? 2 days later, the Battle of Jing Province began. With the support of the Penglai sect, the Nether Sect launched an all-out attack against the city under Yu Zhenghai's leadership. Huang Shiji and Yu Zhenghai, 2 8-leaf elites, attacked Jing Province city with Hua Chongyang and the other Nether Sect elites. Jing Province was in turmoil. In less than 3 days, Jing Province's garrison was pushed back. The Nether Sect rode on the momentum and occupied the general's mansion. Inside the general's mansion, Zhenghai was in a more positive mood than he was before. He said to Huang Shiji, who was next to him, "Thanks to you, brother Shiji, that we're able to defeat Wen Shu." Huang Shiji waved his hand and said, "It's nothing. Your great dark heaven memorial, sect master Yu, has truly widened my horizons. The way you shook the lands with a swing of your saber is amazing." Everyone said that Zhenghai's cultivation base was profound. However, few had witnessed him in action. After the battle at Jing province, Huang Shiji had to admit that even though he was also an 8-leaf cultivator, it would be difficult for him to defeat Zhenghai. "If you have any requests, brother Shiji, please feel free to speak. I will do my best to fulfill them," Zhenghai said. Huang Shiji initially had many requests, but when he thought about Ji Tiandao's 9-leaf golden lotus, he said, "There's no need to thank me. We're just friends helping each other out." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly coughed and spat out a mouthful of blood. "Brother Shiji," Zhenghai cried out. "I'm fine. That old brigand Wen Shu couldn't beat me directly and resort to a sneak attack. How despicable." At this moment, Hua Chongyang hurried into the mansion. He cupped his fists at the two of them and said, "Report, sect master. We've searched every corner of the formation. The old brigand Wen Shu has gotten away." When he heard this, Zhenghai said in a deep voice, "Find him even if it means turning the city inside out." "Yes, sect master." Hua Chongyang bowed. Meanwhile, in a channel north of Jing province, 5 battered armored men were running. "General Wen, this way. If we follow this channel that runs between the huge trees, we'll reach Measure Heaven River that's 50 miles away. I've prepared a boat there." An old man was sandwiched between them. His armor was damaged, and his face was wounded. This was one of the 8 great commanders who guarded Jing Province City and the Confucian Society elite, General Wen Shu. Wen Shu glanced at Jing Province City. Then, he shook his head and said, "I won't rest until I get my revenge." The moment he said this, a calm and gentle voice rang from above a tree. "My apologies." Wen Shu and his entourage were like birds startled by the mere twang of a bow, to begin with. They felt fortunate enough to have survived the Battle of Jing Province. They were all injured to varying degrees. Therefore, the sudden voice startled and frightened them. "Who's there?" "General Wen Shu, look out." A green-robed swordsman with a long sword in his hands perched on a branch of a huge tree. He looked down on everyone with a lofty bearing. He said with a smile on his face, "My apologies, but you must remain here." "You are?" One of them found this swordsman's appearance extremely similar to a certain legendary individual. "He's Yu Shangrong. The sword devil, Yu Shangrong." Someone cried out. Wen Shu's heart sank and thumped wildly in his chest. Even in peak condition, he was merely slightly stronger than Huang Shiji. There was no way he would be a match for Yu Shangrong or Zhenghai. He had heard about the grand battle between the 2 8-leaf elites in Radiant Cloud Forest as well. The epic battle was well known in the cultivation world. It was clear that sword devil Yu Shangrong, whose name struck fear into the hearts of those who heard it, was as strong as Zhenghai. He continued staring at Yu Shangrong, who was perched on the tree warily and in trepidation. "I can't panic. I must pull myself together." In the end, he cupped his fists together and inhaled, gathering his primal chi. He said, "Your reputation precedes you, sword devil. Forgive our lack of hospitality." Yu Shangrong calmly said, "My sword never kills someone without a name. Apart from Wen Shu, the lot of you should leave. I'll give you 3 breaths to do so." The remaining 4 soldiers exchanged a glance. Wen Shu frowned. He hastily said, "Fleeing before the enemy is a death offense." The 4 soldiers were not fools. How could they deal with Yu Shangrong? Fleeing before the enemy? Aren't you doing exactly that, you old geezer? We're sorry, General Wen. What could they do in 3 breaths? The answer was simple, they could run for their lives, of course. 4 of them did not hesitate, they turned tail and ran immediately. In just a blink of an eye, they vanished among the trees. They could not be blamed. After all, they were unaware that Yuan'er had severed his golden lotus. Who would not cower in fear before the eight-leaf elite, Yuan'er? When Zhou furrowed his brows, his expression was dark. He suppressed the unpleasant feeling in his heart as he cupped his fists together again and said, I heard that you're at odds with Zhenghai, the sect master of the Nether Sect. To be honest, I fought with him for 100 rounds earlier. If you find him now, I'm sure you'll be able to easily defeat him now. Still perched on the branch, Yuan'er smiled faintly and said, It looks like you don't understand me at all. Huh? So what if I defeat him now? It won't be a glorious victory, Yuan'er said tonelessly. When Zhou relaxed and said, I'm also injured. Dear sir. Yuan'er lowered his arms to cut Wen Shu's words off. With the scabbard in his right hand, he tossed it up lightly and caught his longevity sword. With a push of his left hand, a blast of energy sent the scabbard flying. Bam! The scabbard was embedded into the tree. The scarlet longevity sword was raised before Yuan'er. Alas, you'll have to die. After saying this, Yuan'er patted the sword. With movements as light as a swallow, he flew toward Wen Shu on his sword. Wen Shu's expression turned grim. He retreated at once while shooting multiple talismans from his palms. Bam! 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 Both of them started fighting. Yuan'er appeared calm. He held his longevity sword behind him as he walked toward his target. Wen Shu kept sending out talismans and script seals as though he was facing a great enemy. This was the Sword Devil, after all. This was the evil Sky Pavilion's Mr. Second, Yuan'er, whose every move was to kill. He was given the moniker Sword Devil for a reason. Therefore, despite being seriously wounded, how could he hold back when facing such an opponent? He had to forcibly muster all the strength he had left in him to fight for his survival. Wen Shu's eyes widened. He had been sending more and more talismans and script seals out, and yet, the Sword Devil evaded all of them and danced around his attacks, unharmed. At this moment, the Sword Devil was fast approaching him. Yuan'er swung the longevity sword. Bam! 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 Several talismans were parried by the longevity sword. The sword shadows were densely packed that they looked like a blur. When Wen Shu saw that the Sword Devil was finally upon him, he shouted, Open! A round energy seal blast rippled out into his surroundings. His 8-leaf avatar appeared and grew in size. Boom! The trees in the vicinity of a few dozens meters fell. However, after a few breaths, Wen Shu's avatar vanished. He felt the pressure had alleviated slightly. Where's the Sword Devil? Wen Shu looked up cautiously. He saw Yuan'er gracefully flip in the air above the cloud of dust that was stirred up. It seemed to him like he managed to push Yuan'er back. He found this hard to believe. Although he had used all his strength to attack, it should have been easy for the Sword Devil to destroy his avatar and kill him. It baffled him to see Yuan'er retreating at this moment. Meanwhile, Yuan'er avoided the shockwave from the 8-leaf avatar's appearance. When he landed, he advanced again at a much faster speed. Are you toying me? Wen Shu asked, incensed and offended. He kept pushing his palm out as different talismans appeared between his fingers. A faint golden light could be seen swirling around his palms. He pushed forward. Yuan'er tapped the ground with his feet and shot into the air. His sword hovered beside him. Densely packed energy swords appeared in the air. Sword Devil's Destiny. Countless energy swords shot toward Wen Shu. Wen Shu scoffed. Is this all the Sword Devil's got? You'll pay for underestimating your opponent. He joined his palms together. His left index finger connected with his right index finger. Then, he stomped his feet on the ground before the golden light between his fingers flashed brighter than before. This was the best opportunity to unleash abandoned wisdom. All elements were in place. The Sword Devil was above while Wen Shu was below. The angle was perfect, and the timing was impeccable. Wen Shu would never give up on such a wonderful opportunity. A string of words hung above his hands, abandon wisdom. This was the most powerful technique of the Confucian societies. The energy seals formed streamlined bullets above his fingers. Then, he shot toward Yu Shangrong like a cannonball. The energy swords from the Sword Devil's destiny collided with the energy seals of abandoned wisdom. Boom. 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 The Sword Devil's destiny could not block abandoned wisdom. Yu Shangrong's expression remained the same. He did a 180-degree flip and retreated as he unleashed his avatar. Whiz. When his avatar appeared, it made for a shocking scene. Yu Shangrong merged with his avatar. His palms joined with its palms. The four palms advanced against abandoned wisdom. Time seemed to slow down at this moment. It was a move that could decide the outcome of the battle in an instant, but it seemed to be taking too long. The trees fell as the two opponents advanced to each other. They flew upward, one pressing forward while the other retreating. Wen Shu caught a glimpse of Yu Shangrong's avatar's golden lotus before he burst into a peal of laughter. It seems like the heavens are on my side today. Who knew I'd meet the Sword Devil who has severed his golden lotus? You're seeking death. He felt invigorated and hopeful now that he had seen Yu Shangrong's lack of a golden lotus. The flames of his fury finally found an outlet. The radiance of abandoned wisdom shone between his fingers as he charged toward the four palms. Their energies collided. Boom. A horizontal streak of energy swept through the surroundings. Bam. 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 The huge trees around them were felled by the collision of energies. Their lines of sight were suddenly unobstructed now. Wen Shu maintained the abandoned wisdom. Yu Shangrong's four palms were crossed as he parried the blow. Wen Shu thought that Yu Shangrong would be heavily wounded from this, but that did not seem to be the case. Yu Shangrong was not only unharmed, but he still managed to maintain his avatar. A shocked expression bloomed on his face as he looked at Yu Shangrong incredulously. Three-leaf, you're just a three-leaf cultivator. How did you block that? Why is your avatar still here? His voice was trembling when he spoke. At this moment, the duo began to descend to the ground. You know too little about avatars, Yu Shangrong said nonchalantly. He looked at Wen Shu as though Wen Shu was a dead man walking. Wen Shu felt his temper rising. He said contemptuously, so what? Even if I'm heavily wounded, I won't lose to a mere three-leaf cultivator like. Swoosh. Three leaves shot out at lightning speed toward Wen Shu and slashed his neck, creating a neat wound before Wen Shu even finished speaking. Both of them finally touched the ground. Wen Shu's eyes were widened as he looked at the three leaves incredulously. Fresh blood was constantly gushing out of his wound. At this moment, the three shining golden leaves returned to the longevity sword's side. Rip. Two of the leaves suddenly split into two. They shone with a brilliant golden light. 5 leaves circled in the air and eventually flew toward the avatar before it finally disappeared under the glaring sunlight. Yu Shangrong stood with his back against the sun. His slender figure seemed lofty and untouchable. Wen Shu could not see his expression against the glare of the sun. He could only hear Yu Shangrong say, I'm a peerless 8-leaf elite. Always have been and always will be.